I'm Harrison here at Panoramic Associates, and this is Peter here with me at the moment. We'll probably hang on just a couple of minutes, see if anybody else drops through, but then yeah, Peter's going to carry on and continue with our talk around sort of taming digital overload. I think the fact there might be a sort of a small group of us could open it up for a bit of Q&A as well, so hopefully a bit of interaction if you guys are up for that too. But I'm certainly looking forward to sort of hearing about the different techniques and tools that Peter's been both employing himself, but with other sort of local government teams, as we've had a few conversations around that. Obviously, my role at Panoramic is centered around sort of transformation in local government. So a dotted line to sort of increase performance and lots of clients with very busy emails that are sort of just bursting at the seams. So this is partly about techniques to sort of tackle some of that and sort of tame that digital tiger. So yeah, Peter, do you want to do a quick intro of yourself and sort of we can go from there?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Harrison. Yes, and good morning. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Catherine. Nice to meet you both. So yeah, my name's Peter Very, and I am founder of Taming the Tiger Academy. We're here to try and help people, teams, and organisations in the public sector, particularly local government, to conquer their inbox, improve focus, and unleash their potential. I come from 15 years of working in local government, so I know the challenges and demands of working in your organisations and what that's like, and the ever-increasing pressures that brings at operational and strategic levels. So I'm here today, hopefully, to give you a couple of nice hints and tips about some of the things I've been teaching people and explain a bit more about what else I can do to help people like you.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Peter. If you want to carry on and sort of bring the screen up and start working through it, hopefully you do get
I will.
A couple of others. We have had a few sort of texts in this morning saying they're stuck on the school run and things like that. So a couple might drop in, but if not, we'll let you carry on and we'll go from there because we are recording the session, I believe.
Of course, great. Yeah, I don't have the pleasure of the school run this morning because I've got a little poorly child that's next door to me. So hopefully he's well entertained with Garfield on Netflix. So fingers crossed we won't be disturbed and Garfield will do his job.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time this morning. It's very kind of you. As I said, I've been working in local government for the last 15 years and another 10 years before that within private sector as well. And I guess what I've begun to notice is this kind of we're increasingly overloaded and overwhelmed in our working world, and that's getting worse and worse by the day. I think we were promised that the technology at our disposal that's become ever more prevalent would come and save us and give us more time and give us more space and help us. But I feel like we've never been as busy and fraught despite all these kind of technological advantages that are at our fingertips. So I want to help with that, really. I think we're in a battle, really, for our focus and our attention. And that is, for me, the crux of everything that I try and teach people on my training courses is actually how to regain that focus. I do loads of stuff around really good tools and techniques and technical solutions, but really the core of it always comes back to be able to help you get your focus back and your attention. People in this world talk that we're in an attention economy at the moment, where our attention is constantly being pulled left and right by all the different devices, apps, and people in our lives. And it's really difficult to be present in the moment. And I'm sure even right now, you're probably not completely present. You're probably in the back of your mind, you're worrying about bits of work you need to sort out. Perhaps you're peering at your inbox or your calendar whilst I'm talking to you now. There's probably things going off on your phone. It's very difficult to try and stay present and in the moment. And that's not just at work, that's with our families and with our children. How often do you catch yourself caught on your phone when really you should try to be enjoying the present and the here and now? And that's a real difficulty for all of us. And that's something I want to help with the training that I do. I hope that's useful. As Harrison said, I'm going to chat through a few bits, but really keen to have a bit of a discussion with you. I hope you can join us later for a chat. So appreciate that. So as I said, I've been doing this for full time now for a couple of years. I've been developing this training, actually working within local authorities. My last substantive role was in Rochdale Council as a public health specialist, and I've been working at senior levels across that and the local NHS organisation as well. We've trained hundreds of people now as well in central government too, where I've also worked in the past. And I hope that it's done in a fun and engaging way, but I want to teach real practical systems that you can apply to your work to help you get that bit of breathing space, get that bit of time, get that clarity and focus that you need to help you conquer your inbox, improve your focus, and unleash your potential. And I hope that makes sense to you all. I think it's really important, particularly in this modern age now. And what I try to teach really is techniques to look at, first of all, the kind of core problems with our work, which really most of it begins within our inbox, and how we manage our way through that. I mean, that's not the whole source of our noise and issues these days, but that's certainly the center of a lot of our problems. And today I'm going to run through a little bit about that with you as well. So I hope you find that useful. I wanted to just set the scene first, though, with a little bit about what I believe are the three key problems of modern work, which I describe as the craving, obligation, and workflow problems. The first one really is a neuroscientific issue, which I describe as the battle of the brain. Really, we've got two parts of our brain that are constantly fighting one another. We've got what I describe as the grown-up part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which wants to plan, it wants to strategize, it wants to do the meaningful work and get the important stuff done. And then we've got almost the childlike part of our brain, the limbic system, the one that's craving rewards, that's looking for its dopamine fix and wants to do the quick things that will help it feed that kind of dopamine addiction. So that will be fixing those quick tasks, peeking at those emails, doing the short burst bits of work that are not really moving the meaningful work forward. So I try to do a lot in my training to try and overcome and challenge that part of our childlike part of our brain. The second part is a behavioral science problem, and there's some really good anthropological studies done in 2015 and 2016 with some Congolese tribes. And they it's really an exploration of the kind of value that the people have within their tribes. And they studied how important different people are. And really, it's the ones that make the best connections with those people in the tribe actually create their own position and value within the tribe. And they measured this by how they exchanged what are called honey sticks, which are a very important delicacy amongst their tribe. And what they noticed was the ones that collected the most honey sticks were the ones that were working on those relationships constantly, feeding and ensuring that they were connecting effectively with those people. And I think we can kind of extrapolate that kind of concept to actually how we work in the workplace too. We have this kind of ancient programming essentially that wants us to be able to respond quickly and immediately to our tribes people, because otherwise we see that as a threat to our position in the tribe. So often we have this kind of programming that makes us want to jump and fix and do things immediately, when often that's not the best thing for us in the short term, or indeed for us as a team as well. It may be more important to look at the work that is more meaningful and more important to do instead. And the final one I talk about is a managerial science problem, which my favourite thinker in this field, a chap called Professor Cal Newport, works at Georgetown University as a computer science professor, but he's also a really well-published author in this field. Talks about a concept called the hyperactive hive mind. And what essentially he says is that in the past, we had a very simple work day where, post came in the morning, we did a block of work, a bit of post might come in the afternoon, we might have a couple of meetings and that's it. But now we're constantly bombarded, and we're bombarding one another with information, requests and demands throughout the day. It's changed the way that we work so dramatically now. So he describes this almost like having a collective consciousness across our work areas that we're constantly feeding. And in the short here and now, it's easy and effective in the short term for me to send that email, get it off my desk and put it onto yours. But actually the longer term consequences to the team and the effectiveness of the team actually is detrimental, because of what it does, it grows this kind of amorphous central communication hub, this hive mind that we have. And the more people you put into that hive, the bigger the hive becomes and bigger it grows. So we need to find ways to tackle that, and indeed the other three problems as well. And these three kind of tend to feed one another. And then what that leads to It's increased anxiety, increased stress. You can't think because you're in a fight or flight mode, and your brain becomes so narrow that you can't really think more effectively. And then eventually you will procrastinate. And more importantly, you will then have an inability to focus on what I describe as the deep work. That's the meaningful work that really pushes the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Does that make sense? Has anyone got any questions at that point? Are they able to put hands up, Harrison? Or is there any issues I can?
I believe so. Yeah, I can
So
I can enable
if you feel like
microphones as well.
jumping in at any point there, please feel free to do so at any point. Let me know.
I was just going to say as well, it sounds like you were on my shoulder yesterday watching my day at work, Peter. I came in and there was emails left and right, and what I'd planned on doing got parked until the afternoon, and by that point I was struggling to sort of focus on it all. So it's definitely resonating with me, that part in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that so often. I think that you set out with great intentions at the beginning of the day with this lovely to-do list, and you get to 5 o'clock and go, wow, it's grown, it's not shrunk, this list. What have I done or not done? And that can be so difficult, trying to be intentional about your time and, more importantly, your attention, I think, Harrison. So yeah, completely agree. I think, I guess what this has translated to, and as a result, really, this kind of hyperactive hive mind concept is we've had an increase of nearly 3,000% in the number of emails that we send on a daily basis since the turn of the century. 3,000%, which is crazy. Okay. And that is because we're trying to work in this maladaptive way through our inbox, and there is more effective ways for us to communicate and collaborate as teams, which is something I do in exploring greater detail in some of my training. But compounded by that, obviously, we've had those kind of changes in our makeup as teams in local government too. The headcount we have has fallen by nearly a quarter since 2014. I think it's over a third. It falls by over a third if you take that back to 2012. It's a similar picture within the NHS. They're sat on over 110,000 vacancies. And then as a result, what we're seeing, particularly from the NHS, because I have data on that as well, is that there's so many more people, 3 times as many people leaving the NHS due to work-life balance and health issues than there were 10 years ago. Well, massive change. And what's happened now is, because of that shrinking resource and all increasing demand, we've had to cut our cloth to suit, and we've digitized a lot of the way that we work to try and manage with that demand. But I would argue, in my opinion, we've not necessarily brought our teams along with us for the ride as effectively as we could have. And to be fair, this is the same in the private sector. When I talk to SMEs as well, they say the same thing to me, that all these new technologies and systems have been foisted upon us, and we've never had a chance to digest and use them in an effective way. And now it's just there's so much of it, we just don't know what to do with it. So this translates really clearly. If you look at some of the LGA workforce surveys, over half of their managers are identifying a gap in use of skills and technology. We're having the same message in the NHS, and what that results in is that only 16% of the public sector staff are using the tools at their disposal to an effective use, and that in turn means that we're actually spending somewhere up to 60% of our time at work on work about work rather than work, if that makes sense. So that's all the administrative tasks, the shallow work that takes up so much of our day. And I want to tackle that. I want to get that number down and get the time that you focus on the meaningful work up. And that's what my ambition is to do with you and other organizations in the public sector. So yes, quite simply, we're facing a digital overwhelm demands. We've got a lack of skills and confidence to navigate them. It's compounded by a decreasing workforce. Quite simply, we're unable to manage the volume and velocity of our work. So yeah, what I wanted to do is just spend a bit of time thinking really about what we do have at our disposal. And yes, I think we've been drowned quite recently with Microsoft 365 and all the apps that are available to us. In the good old days, we just had these 4, and that was great. But now it's kind of gone a bit crazy. So we now have all this stuff, okay? And this chap in the top corner does a wonderful video. We'll share these slides with you later that explains some of these in a bit more detail. It's just too much, isn't it? When you're just on the face of it. I mean, these tools are really useful. They're really powerful, but it's overwhelming. And this is just some of them. And what I try and teach is actually how to use some of these effectively on a day-to-day basis to help you move that meaningful work forward. And to be honest, I would say to you, to cut through this fog, these are probably the ones that you want to use more regularly, more routinely. And if you really want to drill down even further, I would say these two are the ones that are the most important to manage your personal productivity. And these are the two that are most important to manage your team productivity. And again, these are something that I'll explore in a lot more detail in some of our training sessions. So with that in mind, I wanted to spend a bit of time looking at our inboxes today. I hope a couple of quick tips today will help you. And I'd happily have another chat with you if you wanted, if you want more questions later. But I wanted to talk you through an effective way of managing our inboxes. And the first question, of course, comes here is actually which version of Outlook are you using? There are two different ones kicking around at the moment, and you can tell the difference based on how your top ribbon looks like. So the top two are the classic Outlook, and the bottom one is the new Outlook. I'm quite conflicted with the next piece of advice I'm going to give you because the classic one is still the much better tool. Sadly, that is going to get phased out by 2029. So I would recommend you begin to start using the newer one more regularly. And today, what I'm going to run through is very much looks at the new Outlook version. But again, I also teach some of these techniques using the classic one too. So fear not, if you still want to hang on to the classic one, I understand why, but by 2029, it will disappear. So start to think about when you're transitioning into the new one. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is my number top 3 Outlook configuration tips. And these, if you listen to nothing else I say today, are the most important things that I want to get across to you today. Tip number 1 is make sure you turn off all new email notifications. Tip number 2 is turn off all new email notifications. And tip number 3, yes, you guessed it. For the love of God, if you do nothing else after today, please turn off all your new email notifications. There is nothing more distracting. There is no productivity expert in the land that won't tell you this should be your first piece of advice. There is no way you can stay organized if you keep having that window popping up in the bottom right hand corner, the envelope icon appears, even your mouse flickers slightly when you get an email. Outlook is terrible to try and pull you away and distract you from actually getting your work done. And to do that, again, we'll save these with you. You can open up the settings menu and switch off the mail button, and that will stop any notifications. So please do that. Some of you may be panicking, thinking, but what if I get that really important email? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Have a look at this video at the bottom. This talks you through how to set up an alert in case an urgent email comes in. So all the bells and whistles will go off. So check that out if you want to later as well. Fabulous. So there's 4 key components to Outlook, and I'm interested to hear from everyone in the room now, which one you think is the most important. What do you think? Email, calendar, people, or to do? So email, you know which one that is. Presumably that's where all the noise comes in. Calendar is where you manage all your time, obviously. People is the old contacts list, and to do is a to-do list, but within Outlook. Any opinions on which one is the most important part of Outlook?
We've got a few calendars in the chat there, Peter.
Oh, they're in the chat. Sorry. Oh,
yes, me, apologies. Yeah.
Okay, good. Calendar, yeah. And I think what I tend to get is a mixed bag between email and calendar. Usually a 50-50 split whenever I do this training.
It was email personally. Yeah.
You were email, yeah. Okay, that's usually the split. But actually, what I want to try and convince people when I do training is the most important part of Outlook is the to-do list. It's that thing you never use, right? But it is and should be the center of all your operations. Just like your to-do list that you probably write down on a notepad, or maybe you keep it in a Word document. I've got a friend that's a teacher and he sticks Post-it notes all over his monitor. Whatever it is, you'll have a system for managing that list of stuff you've got to get done. My job is to try and convince you to put it in here because it helps to link not only those tasks that you write down in your notepad, but also bring the emails in there as well for some of the tasks that are built within the jobs that are coming in via your inbox as well. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about that now. So Microsoft to-do list is a little bit confusing. It's actually made up of 3 different things. The first one is flagged email. So you may be familiar with that. You can put a little flag on an email to remind you to come back to that. Now, when you do that, what it does, it automatically places an item in your to-do list. Now, that in the past was probably quite a sensible thing to do, but Microsoft at least I believe, I can't quite get to the bottom of it properly, if I'm honest with you, but it seems there's an issue with flagged emails in the new version of Outlook, to the extent that I would tell you to stop flagging emails, because it appears as though the date on those flags begins to expire after 30 days. It will hold it as a flag, but it won't give a due date for the flag. So instead, what I suggest people do is to create tasks from their emails instead. And I'll show you the difference of what that means shortly. And then thirdly, you can also assign tasks to other people, which becomes quite useful. It's actually probably important that you're both aware that you're going to do it, because it can come off a bit passive aggressive if you don't actually know that someone's going to send you a task. But it's a really useful way of actually working and sending tasks to other people, because it gives an audit trail. It gives the level of accountability, because the tasks will appear on both the senders and the recipients of those tasks. So once it's completed by the recipient, the sender will also get a notification that it's been completed too. So you get this nice trail. That's something I could explore in a bit more detail in sessions in the future as well. So this is what your to-do list would look like. If you open your new version of to-do list, again, the classic Outlook has its own to-do or tasks system built into it. They both mirror and map one another, so you can work in old Outlook and it will map to the new Outlook as well. And this is how it will look in theory. So you can see these lists of tasks with due dates, and on the right-hand side, you get a bit of detail about what's happening in the task. And you can sort the tasks by different categories on the left-hand side as well. But also within Outlook, within your inbox as well, you can also open your tasks on the right-hand side. You can do this in Classic too. This is the new Outlook version. So your tasks can appear on the right-hand side whilst you're working. Look at my nice clean inbox. I promise you, it does normally look like that, because I couldn't honestly teach inbox zero and actually not have an empty inbox, because that would kind of defeat the purpose, right? But yes, so this is how in theory your inbox can look. And I've taught directors of public health, I've taught senior leaders of the NHS, I've taught very busy chief execs of small, medium-sized enterprises, and I can get them down to zero. If they can do it, anyone can do it, trust me. Before that, though, I want to ask a quick question about the purpose of an inbox, and it's a bit of a kind of a strange question to ask, really, because it's kind of obvious, really, what an inbox does. But what I want to do to kind of answer this, I want to take you back to a simpler time of memos and faxes and interoffice and spiral bound reports. I want to take you back to these things, okay? Presumably some of you may or may not remember these. Most of them have disappeared. I meet the odd person that still has one of these on their desk. For those of you too young to remember what they are, these are in trays. And what we used to do is work used to come in and land on that top tray. That was your in tray, right? And then once you started to work on it, it went into the middle tray. And then once you'd finished it, it went to the bottom tray to then go off to the filing cabinet, right? And that's where it then went until, and then forever you never saw it again unless you needed to recall the files and information. But the important thing to remember here was that once you were working on it, it didn't stay in that in tray. It was processed through your system. And the same should be true of your digital inbox as well. Your inbox is not the place where emails are stored. It is just a temporary holding place for emails that have not been processed, for unread emails. At this point, you're all panicking because you've got thousands of emails in your inbox. Don't worry, I've got you covered. There is a fairly short exercise you can do to rectify that. But once you start to think in this way, it gives you this really clean space. And you know then when you're on top of your work, you're not trying to work through all the emails that have been dealt with. You can't see the wood for the trees. It just makes you get this kind of much more satisfying sense that you're in control of the work you're doing. And I'll teach you where they go shortly. Don't worry. The question I have is about folders in Outlook. Does everybody have folders in Outlook? Can you tap in the chat any examples of folders, or do you not do folders? How does that work for you?
I think I've attempted to use them previously, but if I hold my hands up, I then I lose that workflow, and I sometimes they sort of get part used and then I move on, and I haven't made it quite stick yet, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with folders, I think, and it's quite a subjective experience. Hundreds of folders, Rachel. Don't worry, I'm a hoarder too. I don't delete any emails, and it's not actually because I'm a hoarder actually. But we'll come to that later. But there's a real difficulty, in my opinion, at least, with filing. It can be quite subjective, and I think from one day to the next, you can change your mind where you put something, and it can be so tricky, especially when an email straddles across one or even two or even more topics. Then, well, where do you put the bloody email? Because it can fit in so many different places. So I guess the point of the question really is actually, why do we even put things in folders to start with? And I believe it's because we do it so that we can find stuff. We organize things so we can find them again when we need them, right? And yeah, then you need to search for them. Exactly that, yeah. And I think you've segued into my point beautifully, so thank you for that, Catherine. We're trying to recreate these things from the good old days, these filing cabinets, right? But now we don't need, and when we did that, we needed to be really meticulous about how we put things in folders, because we had to literally thumb our way through the paperwork to find stuff. But that's not necessary anymore. Outlook has such a powerful search feature. You don't need to do that. There's a really great video, I'll put again, and there's a link at the bottom here. Have a look at this video about how to use some of those search features more effectively if you're not already using them. Just a 10-minute look through of how to type and use search queries in Outlook will save you so much time and make it so much more effective. So do have a look at that. So I believe you don't need any folders, which usually terrifies the life out of most people that have got hundreds of folders. Sorry. I believe you just need two and a to-do list, okay, which we've already talked about already. So I think you need your inbox. You've got one of those, right? That's where all the emails comes in. That's where all the noise arrives. Secondly, you need an archive folder, and you've got one of those as well already. Now, that's where anything goes that's been dealt with already, that you've already dealt with, or it doesn't require any action. The word archive, though, conjures this kind of very inaccessible place up in most people's minds, a kind of dusty warehouse, big, dusty cobweb-ridden boxes. It's not that. It's just a folder in Outlook, okay? It's a place to get dealt with stuff out of your in tray, just as you would have done with the physical in tray. It's a place to move them away, to tidy up what you're seeing. And then the final thing, and the key to this whole idea, is the to-do list that we talked about earlier. And quite simply, anything that takes you longer than 2 minutes to complete, you're going to create a task for. If it takes less than 2 minutes, you're going to do it right now when you're checking your inbox. Okay, so I think I've got a little workflow diagram to describe this inbox zero concept later, but that's the basics of it. Okay, quicker than 2 minutes, do it now. Takes longer, make a task, and then decide when you're going to do that based on your calendar and availability. Great. Okay, so how to create a task. I'm going to walk you through how to do this on the new Outlook. Again, I can happily show you how to do it in Classic as well. Simply, you highlight an email that you want to deal with, and you open up your calendar on the right-hand side and set it to the planned tasks. So that's tasks with a due date. And then you're just going to left-click and pull the task over to the taskbar. And once you do that, it opens up two different sections. You're going to drag it into the Add as a Task section, and then it will create this little task for you, okay? And then you're going to create a due date. If you don't, it will automatically set it to today. And then if you want to change it and do it on another day, you press Edit Due Date and pick the date you want to do it. And then it will keep it in this list forever. And not only that, hopefully you can see on the screen, on the ones above it, it says the word email. Can you see my mouse pointer, Harrison, or not? Forgive me.
Yes, yeah, I can.
You can. So it shows you here the emails. You can click that link and it will take you directly to the email. So it still connects it to the email, okay? So you can open that up and look at the context of whatever the task is that you've created. And then the final step is to press archive, and that then sends the email into your archive and leaves you with a nice, clean, shiny inbox. Okay, so here's the workflow. This is when I was first, all this training came out of pure frustration and panic for me personally in local government, when I couldn't stay on top of my work. I couldn't prioritize effectively, and no one was teaching me how to do it. And I went out and just thought, I need to fix this. I need to be better organized. And this was the first chap I came across that really helped me start on my journey to get organized, and then in turn show others how to do it as well. So this is Stan Pham from Asian Efficiency, and he had this workflow which basically shows you're going to check your inbox for new emails, review each one individually, and then ask yourself that crucial question: does this take me less than 2 minutes to process? If it does, do it right away, and then shove it in the archive folder. If it takes me more than 2 minutes, I'm then going to create a task, and then I'm going to move the email to the archive. And I'm going to do that until my inbox is empty. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good, good. Now, some of you are sat here thinking, well, Peter, this sounds all wonderful, but I've got 25,367 emails in my inbox. Okay. Don't worry, I've got you covered. It's not the end of the world, I promise. It might need a little bit of time to get you organized, but it would be obviously completely crazy for me to suggest to you you're going to go through that workflow 25,367 times. That would be bonkers, right? What I would suggest to you is to take a step back from it and say, look, if I've got an email in my inbox and it's been sat there for 12 weeks or more and I've not done anything with it, chances are I'm never going to do anything with it, right? Now, I'm not suggesting you should delete it. You can archive it. You can just put it in that folder. If it does rear its head again, you can pull the email back and use it whenever you want. But realistically, if you've not dealt with that in the last 3 months, I would suggest you declare email bankruptcy and move those emails that are 12 weeks or older into your archive folder. And then what's left is probably, you probably cleared out 70, 80% of what was in there, maybe more. And again, what's left in those last 12 weeks, most of which will probably be a straight archive you'll have dealt with, or it requires very little action on your part. Think about when you come back from holiday, you've got like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 emails. How many actually require action? There's 10, 20% maybe max. So a lot of that that's left, you'll be able to whiz straight into the archive. Okay, is that all right? Any questions? Shall I pause for a second there? Any questions? I'm pretty close to the end, but happy to take any questions. Want to stick their hand up or put anything in the chat?
I was just going to ask quickly, is there a quick way to like differentiate between those that are sort of past 12 weeks older and those that are newer, so we can immediately archive those?
Yeah, I guess so. You obviously want to put them in date order first, but you want to just, I guess, scroll down manually to wherever you're comfortable with that line to be. I mean, some people may be braver and pull that line further up. It's entirely up to you, I suppose. And then what you need to do is batch highlight them. I would suggest not doing it in any more than 2 weeks at a time, because Outlook might get a bit meh about it. So I would, and what you can do is you can hold the shift, you can press one email, scroll to the bottom of that chunk, hold the shift button, and then press the last email, and it will highlight the whole block. And then you can physically pull them into the archive.
Absolutely. And just a question here around if we've got lots of emails in folders, is there a quick way to do that too?
Excellent question. A really, really good question. If you try to drag a folder into archive, it will just create a subfolder in archive, okay? Which is probably not what you want. I do have I thought it was in these emails. I've got a video that literally explains a search command that you can build. It's not complex or technical at all. It's developing what's called a search folder in Outlook, and it will identify emails within folders. It will pull all the emails out and throw them into archive loose rather than in folders. If it's not in my slides, I'll send you a link to them afterwards, and you can run that through step by step. It's a video of me talking you through it. So great question, Kathy. Thank you for reminding me. Appreciate that. Lovely. So yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to talk through about the inbox today, and I hope that was useful. We've only got a very short period of time today, but I hope that is usually the source of most people's frustration at the very beginning of trying to be as organized and effective as we can be. But we offer so much more, I guess, at Taming the Tiger Academy. This is just what we've covered today. Is just this top part of a half-day training course, which I can go into a lot more detail on the session. We develop actually tools that we can build into Outlook to semi-automate that process of creating tasks, setting a due date, archiving the email, and talk much more about using Outlook more effectively to manage your time and attention as well. So that's I think it's a really effective course, and how it links to other parts of the Microsoft world as well to manage your work. Then go into other things, looking at wider workload management. So how do we manage all the other stuff coming from Teams and WhatsApp messages and latest government guidance and Twitter spats and all the other stuff that you're trying to get hold of and organize. And then once that data, that incoming noise is semi-automated and in a box, I then move on to what matters most, is focusing and prioritizing what counts and how do we move our deep work, our meaningful work forward. And I do sessions about using your attention effectively. I think time management as a concept is dead. Attention management is king, in my opinion. How do we use our fleeting attention on a daily basis as effectively as possible? And then how we build habits and routines to be our best selves, to work with that. And that personal skills stuff over there very much deals with how we live in the current chaos. And I believe it is chaos the way that we work at the moment. We can do it more effectively. And my team's communication and collaboration modules look at how we can change that and shift that. I think we can get down how much is in our inbox by as much as 30%. I can give you back somewhere between 4 and 6 hours per person every week by changing the way that we communicate and collaborate in a more sensible manner that suits our Paleolithic single-track minds. And I'd love to explore those in more detail with you. And the final bit on the right-hand side is something I've never actually delivered yet, but I'm dying to. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. Is actually how we work, how senior executives and their admin support teams work together more effectively and negotiate that delegation of responsibility to help the executives do the executive stuff and not get bogged down in so much shallow work. So yeah, that's most of the stuff from me as well. I also do bespoke sessions as well. I'm currently delivering some stuff about demystifying AI and how to use that, I guess, in a productivity way, not necessarily all things AI, but really how do we get the best out of our time and improve how we work as effectively as possible. And also, I think there's a real drag about how we set up, deliver, and follow up on meetings. And there's some stuff that I'd love to do around that. But also happy to hear anything within this kind of productivity, time, and attention management sort of sphere. I'm happy to come and help and look at some tailored sessions as well. We'll share these slides with you. I've got a little QR code there if you want to scan that to talk to me more. And there's a great little video there if you want to see some of the work we've done as well. And that is me.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Peter. No, I personally found that really, really valuable.